So today I'm going to be sharing my interpersonal communication plan, and my name is Emily Land. So what is interpersonal communication? It's the exchange of information mixed with feelings and our emotions, the cues that we give, connections we have with other people, therapeutic relationships, listening, and understanding. I put that effective communication, just in my own words, I put effective communication involves personal and intentional efforts with patience and grit, woven with a biblical worldview. And I put that through everything I've been learning through this course. I feel like those things kind of sum everything up together. And for me, for what I'm doing with everything that I've been learning, I feel like that makes everything fit for me. Trying to be really intentional with the relationships that I'm building with other people, with discipling other people, incorporating my biblical worldview in the middle of that has been really helpful. So coming up with a plan for how I can do things better. I have a couple of things. So looking at my behavioral blend, my behavioral background shows doing that self-evaluation was really eye-opening and convicting and challenging and encouraging. But it brought a lot of things to the surface that I feel like maybe I've kind of like swept under the rug a little bit. But it talked about that I'm an outgoing people pleaser. I avoid conflict at all costs. Don't really want to have to deal with conflict, so I just try to avoid it. I have a huge desire to encourage other people, but I also can be a control freak. So my background and my identity has a big play in all of this as well. It has shaped my worldview. So the way that I grew up, the home that I grew up in with my parents, the behavior that was modeled to me all of my life has shaped how I deal with things, how I handle conflict, how I deal with other people in relationships. And I would say that my identity has had a shift over the years where my identity is completely set in Jesus, and that has changed everything. So I do not look at my identity as being set in what I do or what I teach, the things that I'm learning, but it's just completely wrapped up in who God is. These influences in my life have affected the way that I communicate with other people. And looking at the behavioral blend, the things that it brought to the surface made me understand the things that I have to overcome in the areas where I felt like I felt like I was a very strong communicator. Is not really the case. And there's one big thing that I need to work on the most, and that is active listening. And I didn't really understand until this course that I'm a really bad listener. So I have a goal to work through all of that, and looking at the barriers that they've talked about also is really convicting. And so I'm working through those barriers as well, because they are directly hit me and made me realize where I'm the weakest. I talked a little bit about through my plan, my communication plan, as I did self-reflecting after looking at the behavioral blend myself, that I put just a couple of points I want to work on. I really want to be able to execute well and not just dismiss it, the things that I feel like God has gifted me and the strengths that I have. And then also, probably the biggest need is to be able to show empathy better and to be an active listener. And I put that I have a desire to cultivate genuine relationships with other people. It's really important to me, so that I can effectively help them through all walks of life as I'm discipling and mentoring and counseling other people. I want to be intentional in my relationships, and one of the big things I need to work on in that is listening. I have such a fixer mentality that oftentimes I'm not listening as well as I should, because I'm rehearsing and planning how I can help the person best, when I'm really missing a lot of what they're saying, which is going to affect the way that I respond and answer and help them. So looking through some of this content, the communication barriers that were stated, Peterson talks about a few big ones: ritual listening, saying I just understand when we really don't, saying yes but, and then interrupting people. Schultz mentions what poor listening looks like, and the importance of knowing yourself well enough so that we can respond in the proper way. Um, and then just some communication barriers in general that I feel like I am really bad with, that was mentioned, were things like reading, making assumptions, prejudging people. um, I feel like I'm a pretty discerning person, and sometimes I can, through this content, I've realized that I think I do a pretty bad job sometimes of judging people from the beginning because I think that I am discerning. And so sometimes I'm missing, I think, what I shouldn't be missing because I'm doing that prejudging. So some other barriers would include assuming with the prejudging, mind reading, rehearsing your response, interrupting, and then reacting. I really liked the part about that I read about rehearsing your response because that really convicted me as well, because I feel like it's something that I do a lot. And I want, because I'm a people pleaser and because I love people and I love relationships with people and I'm very outgoing and personal, I feel like I'm really, really, really quick to jump the gun and um, not listen all the way through. And so that has really convicted me. So that's looking at these communication barriers. That's a huge portion of my plan to do a better job and take those a little bit more serious. So I have a couple of goals and strategies that I listed. One goal is to become an active listener and eventually a life coach. The goal of becoming an active listener is important because it will change everything. It will change my discipleship and the way that I mentor other people. Those one-on-one counseling moments will drastically change. And then the goal in becoming a life coach, I long to invest in other people and especially teenagers. This is a goal that has shaped my life and my worldview. My biblical worldview has a really big part in that because that is ultimately the number one reason why I'm doing what I'm doing in the first place, is to share the gospel with other people um, in hopes that I can see Jesus transform lives of other people the way that he did mine. And so there's a couple of things that I need to work on with that. And one of those big ones for me is being able to have genuine empathy for other people and being able to display that in the right way. Schultz, I listed a quote from Schultz. That's my favorite. It says, great interpersonal relationships, including friendships, result from a fascinating combination of God's grace and our efforts. And I love that because um, we can't we can't fix anyone and we can't do anything by ourselves. And God and his grace and his mercy come in. And God is ultimately the one that can change hearts, but he does use us as a tool. So using the efforts that we can put into our relationships and in our communication with other people for the glory of God, mixed with the grace and the mercy of God, um, is the best thing. I loved that quote. So a couple ways that I want to implement my plan. Active listening, knowing myself. So what does active listening look like? Just being able to listen without doing all of those things that I previously mentioned. Knowing myself well enough to know that I'm not going to just start reacting. I want to respond in the right way. If someone says something that just hits me in a way that I don't necessarily like, I don't want to be quick to defend or get angry or dismissive, but I want to know myself well enough to know that I'm going to be able to respond and not just react. Building really strong connections with people, having therapeutic relationships, I think is really, really important. And I think there's a fine balance between being professional and being personal and knowing how to blend those things well, so that your client is getting the best from you. So, and then another thing I want to implement is true understanding, and then empathy. So, understanding in the sense that I'm not just agreeing with someone just to agree with them, but truly trying to understand so that I can help them, and then show empathy for other people. So a couple of things with my with how I'm going to implement my plan. I want to turn my goals to a reality and be able to move past just saying, oh, I have all these goals in my life, but actually be able to put it into play. So I want to be able to evaluate my progress and have accountability with other people and focus on that. And if I'm not constantly evaluating myself, then I don't know if I'm going to be doing anything. So I've already put some things in place with some people in my own personal circle to help me with this, and it's been awesome so far. My biblical worldview is, like I said a little bit ago, um, the strongest point for me. So as I evaluate and do a self-reflection and put all these things into practice, I feel like my plan is going to be able to flourish because the base of it is rooted in Jesus. And the reason that I'm doing everything that I'm doing is for the glory of God and to be able to help other people and love other people. So this is my plan. This is what I'm working on. I'm really thankful for this class and this content, the things that I've studied, and the way that it has honestly kicked my tail so far and brought a lot of things to light. Thank you.